Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Andrea Evans. I'm the owner of the law firm of Andrea Hens Evans, a full-service intellectual property law firm. And I am so excited today to welcome my fabulous line sister, Lawanda Nowlin Hodges, who is an expert at all things white-collar crime, superstar television attorney as well. And she's here joining us today. She's going to provide us with some information about how she launched her firm, her inspiration, and just some motivation as we get through our new normal. So please welcome Lawanda, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much, Andrea, for having me. My name is Lawanda Nowlin Hodges, and as you indicated, I am a white-collar criminal defense attorney and high-stakes crime attorney. And a lot of people ask, what does that mean? White collar is your traditional money laundering, robbery, bid rigging type of cases. And then the high stakes crimes, usually they are what practitioners call the seven deadlies, or cases where you're looking at a lot of time, like 10 years or more. But the reality is, it's really subjective, because what might be high stakes to one professional may not be high stakes to another. So for instance, if you are a top level executive, just having some marijuana in your car might be high stakes to you because you have a lot counting on it. Your job is, relying on you to do well and not have felony convictions. So in that case, that would be high stakes too. But to summarize it, high stakes and white collar is what I do.
Well, that is such a niche practice. So I know everyone is wondering, just like myself, how did you get into this practice area?
Well, I started out at a law firm where I was a business litigator, and then I moved to the government as a prosecutor. And I originally intended on being there for only 3 years, because that was the 3-year commitment. But 3 years turned to 4, and then 5, then 6, and then 7, then 8. I ended up being at my first location for 8 years. I went back to a law firm, and this size law firm was more of a boutique size firm. I originally started at a large international firm. So it was different in terms of like size, but in terms of the level and sophistication of the work, it was all the same. But I ultimately went back to the government, and I ended up being the deputy assistant district attorney over public corruption and public integrity. That's when you're dealing with public officials. And I did that for another 3 years. So in total, I've been a prosecutor for 11 years. And after doing that, coupled with my business litigation experience, I thought it was appropriate for me to kind of specialize in white collar cases. But I still have my love and my passion for those, raw, high stakes crime kind of cases, because I was a murder prosecutor. So that's how I started my practice. And that's how I kind of refined it to the areas that I'm practicing in.
So let's step back. So it sounds like you were just a boss. You are a boss. I know you personally, and I know you're a boss. You were moving up the ranks. You're talking about 11 years. You are truly an expert. So tell us about the day that you just decided, that's it. I'm just going to be my own boss. I'm launching my firm. And what prompted you to do that? Because I have a lot of attorney friends that watch this, and they call me and they say, I can't do it. So they're wavering. So what would you say to someone that's on the fence, and what actually pushed you?
Well, I can't say it was just one thing in particular, but I think it was a few things all kind of happening at once. It was like the perfect storm. So I had my 11 years of prosecutorial history, had been practicing again in firms. So I was approaching about 17 years of practice at the time. And I've always worked for other people. It was always working at the pleasure of the senior partner that I worked with. If I was a senior associate, or if I was a junior associate, working at the pleasure of the senior associate. Or if I was a government employee, I was working at the pleasure of the district attorney. And even though I kind of had high level positions, I still was working for the pleasure of the DA. And it was just kind of like a, put my head down and do my work type of atmosphere, which was fine. But after a while, you want to kind of enhance your career and refine your skill set. And there were just some things that you knew you were really good at that you probably were the only one who knew about it because the world didn't know, right? And so that was one thing. Like I started just doing so much in the government, and I literally had done every section, like from your low level trafficking, shoplifting, aggravated assault to mid-level, like trafficking drugs, high level HIDA to high level murders to shaking babies to public integrity to indicting police officers. And just, I had literally done every area. So I was like, you know what? Now it's time. So that happened. I had my third child, and I was like, okay, I need to be able to dictate my own schedule and my own trial schedule. And lastly, my mother got really sick. And so I was just like, you know what? I got to control my own destiny. Like when I need to leave to see my mom, I want to be able to do it and don't have to worry about PTO and all those things like that. So it was like the perfect storm. All those things happened at once. And I'll tell you, Andrea, I never thought I would have my own practice. I was just like, girl, I need me a W-2. I got all these kids I got to take care of. It was never start your own firm and get in that hustle. But it's been 4 years now.
Wow. And it sounds like there's no looking back. I mean, you've done it all. And now here we are 4 years out, but I have a feeling in about 15 years, we'll talk about this again and look back on this conversation and say, wow, it seemed like yesterday.
I can't see myself working for anyone anymore. I really can't. I'm enjoying it. Sometimes I'm like, why did I do this? And then other times I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. But honestly, I don't see myself working again for anyone else because I enjoy the thrill of learning something new. I enjoy the thrill of, perfecting something and to look back and be like, oh yeah, I did that. There's nothing like it.
Well, and you set such a good example for your family, that your children can look at you and say, Mom, what are you doing every day? And you can tell them that it's for your own business. And I think that that's so different from the way that most of us grew up working with entrepreneurs. Most of us grew up in a house where you get a job, you keep that job, and you retire, and that's it. And when you tell someone you're going to work for yourself, they're shocked. And so I want to talk about your family. So you said that you wanted more time and more flexibility, more freedom. So how's that going with your mother of 3 boys, a wife? So tell us more about how you balance your firm life and your family life, if you believe in balance, period.
So I laugh a lot of times when people ask me that question. They say, how you do it? And my response is barely. That's how I do it. It is difficult. Sometimes I'm better than others, but fortunately, someone who is a good friend of mine and colleague told me, when I first started my practice, now almost 19 years ago, not my practice, but started practicing law, now almost 19 years ago, she said, choose your career around your life, not your life around your career. And that always stuck with me. So I was just like, well, I want to have babies. So I started having my babies early on and continue to just try cases and be involved. And to my old boss's credit, I wasn't on mommy's track, like you can get on mommy track when you start having babies, but I wasn't. He just kind of was like, all right, you got to get in there and try those cases. And I did it. And it was hard, at the time. And I look back and I'm not sure how I did it. And so that's why I always say barely, but I have a very supportive husband and my children are just amazing. Like my family is everything to me. It really is. That's how I can do it.
Well, I love your family and we have a good time together. And that's what I love. And that's why I wanted to interview you, Lawanda, because your story is so inspiring. Like so many of us have credentials, we have the expertise. Right. And during this pandemic, many of us are now working from home. Unfortunately, some of my peers who are working at firms have been told that their paychecks are going to be cut 30%, which I can't even imagine expecting a certain amount every month. And then all of a sudden that's just cut 30% when you depend on that money in your family. And so now they're looking for hope and looking for some inspiration. So you just said a mouthful with that quote that somebody said to you. What are your inspiring words to someone else that's watching now? Give us some motivation here today.
Oh gosh. So, you know, what I would tell my girlfriends when I talk to them, like I've told you, but you were already doing it. But you know, just kind of like, do you, girl. I always say that I'm always gonna bet on Lawanda. Like I'm always gonna bet on me because I know what I can do. I know my hustle. I know my flow. I know that I can outwork most people, and I'm gonna bet on Lawanda. Do you? That's my quote. My inspiring quote for today.
But you know what? That is so inspiring because it starts with you, like you said, and having that confidence. And so many people get a paycheck, and I always tell them somebody believes in you enough to pay you, and a client will do the same thing. So do you. I love that. And, you know, speaking of doing you, Lawanda, you are amazing in the community as well. You give back. And I want to talk about breaking it down with the law. You know, that's your trademark. I love that. And that's something that you don't have to do, but the law can be complicated. So tell everyone watching about your blog and what you do with that.
So my video blog is called Breaking It Down by the Law. And it's a pun kind of on my name because I'm breaking down the law, but I'm Lawanda. And my husband affectionately calls me the law because I guess I lay down the law, I don't know, in the household. So that's where it kind of started. I started breaking it down by the law, and it started from the desire to break it down to the most common denominator. I do really high level sophisticated law in the bid rigging, the money laundering, you know, the white collar cases. But the reality is I enjoy talking to just everyday citizens and lay people, and just breaking down what appears to be complicated in a manner that everyone can understand it. And it stemmed from doing closing arguments. So, you know, when you have a case that's relatively complicated, when you're doing a closing argument, you got to explain the law, but you also have to juxtapose it or analyze it with the facts as presented to the court. And so when I first started trying cases, that was difficult for me to do that. You know, I was trying to, you know, talk like at a high level and felt with that I had to sound very lawyerly when I talk to people. And I realized that when I, you know, still sound intelligent, but I'm just kind of explaining it in a way that everyone can be like, oh, okay, I got that. So I started breaking it down by the law, and I just wanted to let everyone know and understand what the law is, because the law is for everybody. It's not just for people who are professionals or people who have money and can afford a white collar criminal defense attorney. You know, it's for everyone. Like I want to be understand it. I want a professional who may not understand criminal law, but can understand IP law, for instance, to understand criminal law. I want my grandma to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like I want people like that to understand it. I want my colleague, I want my classmate, I want anyone to be in the room with me, and we can talk about a grand jury, and we can talk about what an indictment means. We can talk about things like that instead of, you know, we just use those words so regularly in our common speech like lawyers do. We just talk about it like everyone understands it, and that's just not the case. So that's a long-winded way of explaining where breaking it down by the law came from.
Well, I love it. You know, I'm a fan of it, and I definitely want everyone to support you because it's good information. People are constantly looking for content, and they have, you know, as you know, fake news. So why not get the law broken down by the law? So I love it, and I'm really proud of you for that. And, you know, you are all things expert, all around mom, wife, lawyer, but you've also been on television because of your high profile cases and your expertise in criminal law and white collar crime law. So tell us more about how that opportunity presented itself and how you adapted to being a television star.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I'm a television star, but when I first started my practice, it's just some colleagues that I worked with when I was trying murders. There were two detectives, And they called me and was like, Lawanda, you were on this case where we put this person in jail for life because he was like, you know, killing someone he raped, right? You know, it was a horrible case. And I was like, yeah, I don't really remember it, but if you give me the case file, I'll look at it and it might jog my memory. And that's how it started. So I looked at the case file and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this and this happened. And I couldn't believe that I remembered all those things, those aspects about the case, but I did. And so they filmed me. And then after that, they were like, how about this case? And I was like, oh yeah, that happened here. And it just kind of just started. And I ended up doing several episodes. And it was just so random and such a blessing all at the same time. But it started from these two detectives who are amazing. And that's on the Atlanta homicide. That is Detective Quinn Velasquez, and they really are as dope as they appear on television. They are some cool guys, and they are top-notch detectives. So I started doing it, and then someone saw me on Atlanta homicide, and they called me about filming Vengeance. So I ended up doing Vengeance too, the same way. I started looking at the case and talking about it, kind of second nature, and they were like, can you film this one again? And, you know, it was a blessing, but it was very random. I wish I could tell you it was more strategic than that, but it wasn't.
Well, but you know, that just goes to show that hard work pays off, and you put in the work, not trying to be on television, not trying to necessarily be an expert, but like you said, you bet on yourself. So I love that. So I think the theme of this entire interview has been to do you for sure. And continue to do you. And definitely I'm excited to introduce my community to you. And where can they follow you on social media? And do you have anything that we can do to support you? Please share any information.
Absolutely. I usually put my video blog on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Facebook, and it's Breaking It Down by the Law. All you gotta do is Google it and it'll come up, but continue to follow me on those pages. Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And my website is www.lhodges, as in Lawanda Hodges. So it's lhodgeslaw.com.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And you are so amazing. You inspire me. You motivate me. And just keep up the good work, Lawanda. And I'm proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You always motivate me. You're partially why I started my firm. Because you told me I should do it. And I was like, no, girl, I ain't doing that.
And I'm so proud of you. And look at you now. And if anybody needs any type of white collar crime work, you're looking at the expert. And just continue to work hard, do you, and just do the best you can. And when you work hard, hard work pays off. So post your comments and follow Lawanda, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.